record on the computer. There you go. All right, good. All right, we're learning the story of Yitro. The whole Torah's portion is called Yitro. Yitro is a non-Jew, and he was Moshe's father-in-law. Moshe's father-in-law. He married Yitro's daughter, who was called Sipura. And so Yisro heard. Now Yitro, according to some opinions, Yitro was evicted from the people because he decided he had big doubts about these other idols that he was worshiping. And so they eventually evicted him. But before that, he was like the grand high priest, the high pope of all of the idolatry in the world. And so when Yitro heard, Yitro, who was the father-in-law of Moshe, he heard everything that God did to Moshe and the Jewish people, his people, and to Israel, his people. Now, whether it means his people means Moshe's people or God's people. Anyway, the God took the Jewish people out of Egypt. Let's see what Rashi says. Vayishma Yitro, ma shmu shema. What did he hear? He heard about the splitting of the Yam Suf, and he heard about the war with Amalek. So those two things were what really impressed Yitro. Yitro, who is Yitro? He said, well, really, there's a lot of other places that there's a lot of other names that are given. In fact, Yitro had 7 names. 7 Shemos. He was called Ru'uel. He was called Yeter, Yitro, Chover. Sometimes he's called Kini and Putiel. Now we'll explain some of these names. Sometimes Yitro, obviously is a pretty important figure. If a whole portion of the Torah is called on his name, sometimes it's called Chovev. Why? Shechovev et Torah, that he loved the Torah. Chovev is Yitro. Like it says, Mibnei Chovev Choten Moshe. Some people say Ru'uel was not Yitro, was the father of Yitro. Ma'omer, what does it says when he came to Ru'uel Avihem? It says it was really not their father, it was his grandfather. Children call their grandfather, sometimes they also call him father. Anyway, Choten Moshe, however it is, he was the father-in-law of Moshe. Kan hoya Yitro mitchabed b'Moshe. Here it says that Yitro, where did he get all of his honor and his respect from? But the fact that he was the father-in-law of Moshe. Ani choten Moshe. I'm the father-in-law of the king. Well, the she'avar, but in the past, Moshe told Chamiv. Moshe used to depend his greatness on his father-in-law, like it says, Vayeshev al Yeter Chodno. He sat together with Yeter Chodno because Moshe was unknown and Yitro was known in the whole world. It was Moshe Yisrael. Then Moshe was equal to the Jewish people. Moshe can call Yisrael. That Moshe was equal in his dearness to Hashem to all the Jewish people. When he saw everything that God did, et kol asher Elokim Moshe, that everything God did to Egypt, what did he do? You read it, Taman, the descending of the manna, the desert. Ubaba'er, and in the well of Miriam, and in Amalek. Right, these 3 things were things that happened before the Torah was given. That God took them out. Zu Gedula al Kulam, and this is greater than all of them. That God took them out of Egypt. So here it seems that he's dividing it into 2 things. That Yitro heard about the splitting of the sea and war of Amalek. Those were the immediate things. And then he heard about that, and also the things that God did to Israel, to the Jewish people. Right. In addition to that, he heard the thing that really impressed him, that was the final thing that impressed him to come, was the splitting of the sea and Amalek. But before that, he also heard that God brought the Jewish people manna, and there was an amazing well that fed the Jews and gave the Jews to drink, and the war of Amalek. But the greatest of them all was that he took them all out of Egypt. Those were all the things that impressed him, but the final the final convincing factor was that he took that Amalek and the splitting of the sea. Let's look at the Baal HaTurim just for a moment. The rabbi said that Yitro heard about the splitting of the sea because when it split the sea, as there was a tremendous confusion in the world until all of the kings of the world, the east and the west, they all heard, and that's what it says. Vayinhom alav kinahamas yom, Omer, they all ran to him like the sea. And it says also that he heard about the war about Amalek. Okay, I heard an interesting thing that it says that Amalek is the same numerical value as doubt, Safek. Safek is the same numerical value as Amalek. As Yitro heard that there were all these big miracles, including the splitting of the sea, and nevertheless, Amalek could strike. In other words, nevertheless, there were people that could still have doubts about the Jewish people and about God. And he said, if that's the way things work, then I better go to Moshe. If there can be such great miracles, and if I would have done any one of these miracles, everyone in the world would believe in me. And here, God did such amazing miracles for the Jewish people, and still there could come after that Amalek, a nation that would attack the Jews, or like we said before, Suffolk, doubts. As he said, if so, I have to go to Moshe. I have to go to be close to Moshe myself. There's an interesting Orach Chaim. It says that Yitro was the Kohen Midian. What does it mean? That he knew all the other gods in the world. It says, and so the Orach Chaim says that through this he came to understand what God did, because great people to great people is revealed, and they know everything without any without any filter. So because I mean, how did God create the world? He created the world. There's some people that are great people. They're meant to be leaders. And he was one of them. Usually people that are leaders, they have a certain power of seeing. They can see things. They can make the right decisions. So because he was the Kohen Midian, he was such a great person, and so he had the ability to see the truth. So he says, because he was such a great person, so he had a sense of everything was going on. So therefore, he knew all of what God did to the Jewish people. And this is also telling the praises of Yitro, and that he was interested in knowing all of the details. What happens when the Jews left Egypt? And because suddenly he revealed how much God loves the Jews, that a person can see someone who hates someone else cannot bear to see that other person succeed. And therefore, when it happens, he sees somebody else succeed, he just can't bear it, he can't take it, so he doesn't want to hear anymore, which is not the case if you love somebody and you care about them, so that you want to know as much possible about the good things that happen. So it was also with the Jewish people. Just one second. He saw good things were happening to them, and he wanted to see more. So it shows that he had a love for the Jewish people. So that's what it means. What it says over here, that he saw kol asher asa, that Yitro, it said kol. He wanted to know every detail of what God did to Moshe and to the Jewish people, because it ended up that he loved the Jewish people. He knew that they were God's people, so therefore he loved them. Generally speaking, this is the only really in any way acceptable explanation for anti-Semitism, because people through the generations have hated the Jews, and there's really no logical reason why everybody hates the Jews. What is this thing about anti-Semitism? It's truly bizarre. It really truly is bizarre. I mean, people that say they hate the blacks because their skin is a different color, so they see the person is different than me. So I mean, you have to be sick to hate a person for that reason, but at least there's a reason. At least this is a reason. And people hate the Orientals. They hate the Mexicans. They hate the Spanish. They hate people of a different religion, from a different country. They have a different accent. But the Jews in Germany, they had been in Germany or Poland or Russia or these places. They'd been there for like 1,000 years. Jews had been there. So the Jews that were in Germany, they looked like Germans. They spoke like Germans. And they were in high places in Poland and all the other countries. They had been there. I mean, the temple was destroyed, almost 2,000 years ago. Jews had been living in these countries for a long time. So they have the same character traits and look at the Jews. But as soon as they find out the person is a Jew, all of a sudden they hate them. And the reason seems to be because of this, because they hate God. They don't like the idea that there's God that tells people what to do, and you have to do what God says. And so because of that, and the Jews, whether they want to or not, that's why Jews hate Jews also. Because the Jews, they don't want to say that they're God's people. They don't like this idea of being limited in their actions and being representative against their will. They didn't decide to be the representative of God. So he says that's the greatness of Yitro, the Yitro that when he heard about the miracles that God was doing for the Jews. So we wanted to know everything that he did. Kol asher. This is another explanation by Yitro. This is all the Orach Chaim. Yisro heard all the things that God did. What does it mean? All the wonders and the miracles that God did in the merit of Moshe, but Tzidkat Navi. That's what it says. Asher Ose Moshe. That's what it says that God did to Moshe. Right? If you think about it just for a moment, what does it say over here? That Yitro heard everything that God did to Moshe and to the Jews. And Moshe is part of the Jews. It just should have said that God did to Yisrael, his people. But it says to Moshe means that in the merit of Moshe, God did all these miracles for the Jewish people, in the merit of Moshe. Where is this? Here we go. No, lost the place. Okay, I'm sorry, I just lost the place. All right. In the merit of Moshe, he did all these things. I lost the place. I'm sorry. Bavur Moshe and Yisrael. That he saw the merits, the big miracles that Hashem did because of Moshe. Interestingly enough, how could I have lost the place? Here we go. Oh, yeah, because I'm in the wrong place. I'm looking for the wrong place. Here it is. Oh, I was looking in the Ramban. I forgot the color. Okay. That he did. That's what it says, Asher Asa LaMoshe. All these miracles that he did, from all the things that he did, it was all the miracles. He knew that it was Moshe and Moshe's merit. And therefore, it doesn't say that lo amar v'ki hotzi zulat shemias kol anasim. It doesn't say that God took them out of Egypt until the very end. All the other miracles that he had, must ki shama sheshalochem ki lo hamin v'im yamin lo yiftach ki yomar shuv yirdefu acharayim v'im radfu v'lo yachlu yachinu od machane v'yirdefu. Therefore, it says that God took them out of Egypt. You might think that, well, the Egyptians will run after the Jews and they will catch them. So that he split for them the sea, and they even got out after that. So he was very, very impressed by this. Here is the Ramban. I skipped over. The Ramban says it's a big question. When it says Yesh Rabotenu, the Parsha Azos, Yesh Me'em, some people say that before Matan Torah, Yitro came. Some people say that it was after Matan Torah. After the Torah was given, Yitro came. And he proves that it was after Matan Torah. That's what he says. It was after the Torah was given. That's the idea of the Ramban. Yitro Chusin Moshe, he took Tzipporah, the wife of Moshe, after he sent her. What does it mean he sent her? Let's see. After Kasha Omer La Kodesh Baruch Hu, when God said to Moshe in Midian, Lech Shuv Mitzrayim, go back to Egypt, the Yikach Moshe et Ishto, he took his wife and his sons. And then Aaron came and he met him in the mountain of God. And he said, who are these people? Yitro said, this is my wife that I I'm sorry, Moshe. When Moshe took his wife and his sons, Aaron came to meet him and he said, who are these? This is my wife and my two sons. Omer Lo, he said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to Egypt. And that's where I came from. I came from Egypt. Rashi said, Al Rishonim anachtu mitztarim. Anachtu regret the first ones. Va'ata bolo hosif aleim. And you're taking the first Jews that went down to Egypt, they're stuck there. They're now slaves. And now you want to add on more. Omer La lechi al beit avir. So therefore he said, go back to your father's house. Okay, what's going on here? Moshe, it says, was by his father's house, right? Kohen Midian, by his father-in-law's house. And he ran away from Paro. Paro wanted to kill him, and he ran away from Paro. So he ran away from Paro, and he's tending Yisro's sheep, and he sees the burning bush, and God says, that's it, I'm taking you back. Go back to Egypt and take the Jews out. So Moshe has a big whole argument with Hashem. Should I go? Should I not? I don't want to go. Finally, he convinces Moshe to go. So Moshe goes down to, convinces Moshe to go. You should go. So now Moshe is going down to Egypt, and he takes his wife and his children with him. So he says, what are you doing? Why are you taking your wife and your children? Aaron said, Moshe, what are you taking your wife and your children for? So God's sending me. He says, listen, all the Jews that are there, there's already, they're suffering enough. You're going to bring more Jews down there. So he sent his wife back, right, back to her home. Now, if you remember, okay. So he said, send your wife back. So he said, that's what he means. Vayikach Yisro, he took Tzipor, his wife, after he sent him. What does it mean he sent him? Moshe sent his wife back home, back to her father, and then Moshe went down and he took all the Jews out of Egypt. Now they're already out of Egypt. Out of Egypt. All the time that Moshe was speaking to Paro and all this, his wife wasn't with him and his two sons. Now Moshe finished, the Jews were out. So Yitro decided he would convert. And he also took Moshe's daughter, Moshe's wife, namely his own daughter, Moshe's wife, Moshe's two sons, back with him, because they were with him in Midian. Took them back to meet Moshe. So that's what it means, Achar Shilochah, after Moshe sent her back home, now he's bringing her back again. And the two sons, and also her two sons. And one of them is called Gershom, because it said that I was a wanderer in a strange land. And the other one's called Eliezer, that God will help me, because the God of my father helped me, and he saved me from the sword of Paro. What do you mean from the sword of Paro? Said, remember that story back there we learned a long time ago, the Datan and Aviram, they saw Moshe kill the Egyptian. There was an Egyptian beating up a Jew, so Moshe killed him. Well, Datan and Aviram, they went back and they told Paro. So Paro wanted to kill Moshe. So it said that he put him on the block to have his head chopped off, and his neck changed into Naset Savaro Ka'amot Shel Shayesh. His neck changed into marble, and the sword couldn't break through. That's what it means. He saved me from the sword of Paro. That's Eliezer was called on the name of that. Yitro, the father-in-law of Moshe, and his sons and his wife came to Moshe in the desert, where he was camping there in the mountain of God. What do you mean to the desert? We know that the Mount Sinai was in a desert. Af anu yadim, we know that it was in the desert. El shivcha shel Yisro. This is telling the praises of Yisro, Yitro, that he was sitting in an honorable place in the world. The Nadvu Libo, and all of a sudden he decided on his own to leave everything, all of his greatness, and go into the desert, a place that was tohu, into a desert where there was absolutely nothing waiting for him there, to hear the words of Torah. Now Yitro, he was like the high priest over there of idolatry. And now he left everything just to hear what Moshe had to say. And he said to Moshe, I am your father-in-law, Yitro. I have come to you, and your wife and your two sons together with. Who did he say this to? He said it by means of a messenger. He sent ahead. He said, I am your father-in-law. If you don't come out because of me, come out before you, to meet me, as come out because of your wife. And if you don't want to come out because of your wife, because Moshe was very occupied with the Jewish people, then come for your two sons. Let's do two more here. Here's the Sifroni. He said, Yitro said, I am your father-in-law, Yitro. First of all, he wanted to name, to let him know, in order that he would understand, lahachin makom, The Shivtam. First of all, he said, listen, I've come to you. He sent a messenger so that Moshe would have a place ready for him. Like it says, Al tikanes lebeitcha pitom. Don't go to someone's house suddenly. How much more so to the house of your friend? So in other words, Moshe, he let him know that I'm coming so that Moshe would prepare the place for him because he was an honorable person. He was also his father-in-law. So it says Moshe came out to meet his father-in-law and he bowed to him and he kissed him and he each asked, how are you for your, and they came into the tent. Moshe came out, it says Moshe gave a tremendous honor to Yisro at that time. As soon as Moshe came out, Aaron and Nadav and Avihu, Aaron's two sons, also came out. It says, me, who is Shirah, at Elu, who is it that could see these and not go out yourself? In other words, all the Jewish people went out to receive Yitro. He bowed down and he kissed him. Says Rashi, I don't know who bowed down to who. It doesn't say. And it says, what does it say? Moshe came to his father-in-law and vayishtachu, vayishachlo, and they bowed down and kissed him. Who bowed? Yitro and his wife and children, they kissed Moshe, or maybe all the Jewish people, they bowed down to Yitro and Moshe kissed him. So he says, I don't know who bowed down to who. When it says Ish l'reyehu, who was the one that's called Ish? That's Moshe, like it says Ish Moshe. So we know that it must be that Ish Moshe bowed down. Ish l'reyehu, Ishalu Ish l'reyehu. It must be that the Ish, he bowed down to Yitro. Moshe bowed down to Yitro. In other words, he was in a way of greeting. It says Moshe went out lo chadal b'shvil malato l'kadem pat penei misha shalem lo tova and be'et sarlo. Moshe was the greatest of the great. He was the head of the Jewish people. The Jewish people had just decimated all of Egypt. So he was virtually the leader of the most powerful force in the world. Now is coming his father-in-law, who had just basically become deposed. He left this place of being the high priest of idolatry, and he left it all and came to Moshe. So it was basically, Yitro was nothing. Nevertheless, Moshe bowed down to him, and he went, even not he bowed down, he went out to him, went out to greet him. So it says the Sforno said Moshe did not refrain from giving honor to Yitro despite his greatness and all the good that he showed him. Like it says, the Mamar Mordechai Esther Asa, like it says that Esther, that she was the queen of the world, Esther, that she did whatever her father-in-law, some people say anyway, did to her, whatever Mordechai told her to do. And also like Yosef and his friends, Yosef was a big king. Nevertheless, he gave this tremendous honor to his brothers. Exactly the opposite of the minister of wine that was in the jail with Yosef. It says that as soon as the minister of Yain got out, the wine minister got out of prison, he was brought up to greatness. As immediately he forgot Yosef, he just totally forgot about him. So that's the opposite. Okay. Moshe told to his father-in-law everything that happened, what God did with Paro in Egypt, and the greatness of the Jews and all the occurrences that they did on the way, and how God saved them. Says Rashi, why did Moshe tell his father-in-law these things? Limshochet libo, the curve of the Torah, to make him come closer to Torah. He realized that his father-in-law was interested, so he wanted to make him come closer to the Torah, to the 7 Noahide commandments. In the end, Yitro, he converted. Everything that happened, what happened to them on the sea, what happened with Amalek, etc. And the word Hatala, it just explains what this word Hatala is. So the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says that Moshe told him, even though that says that Yitro already heard, he heard everything. So why did Moshe have to tell him? It's maybe there were certain details that he didn't hear. Or maybe Shalo Hitzdik HaPalos, Hitzdik HaPalos L'tzad HaGzamat HaInyanim. Or maybe he thought, listen, it's too amazing what I'm hearing. Yitro, he could have thought, I don't believe it, 10 plagues, splitting the sea, bread from heaven, water from a rock. Maybe somebody is exaggerating, which is the way that things are done. People exaggerate stories. Or maybe, shekorim lo me'ayadi adayan hayamistapek shalo nirtak chevel mitzri me'al tzavreim. Or maybe he thought, I can't believe that the Jews are totally out of Egypt. I mean, they've been slaves there for so long. How could it just be that all of a sudden they're totally free people? Never such a thing like this. And Moshe told them the whole exactly the facts that only Moshe could know, and namely how the God destroyed the angels, the spiritual force of Egypt. And a rabbi say in the Zohar, it says that he was shown from heaven that the Jewish people were dead. So therefore, Yisro decided that maybe something happened. He couldn't understand what it was. And maybe Zehu Sharamaz HaKatuv, when it says that et kol hatala asher matzah sam b'derech, namely that when he was found out, when Yitro revealed that the angel of Egypt was running after the Jews, because Yisro, he was the Kohen Midian, he knew all of the idolatry that there was in the world. So he knew that there is all these chieftain angels from above, and that every nation has their own. When he heard that this angel was running after the Jews, Egypt has the biggest angel of them all from all the nations. So when he heard that, he realized that Jewish people must be very afraid. And Kamoshe Frishrusham, when Yisrael said, thank God that he saved them from Egypt, he couldn't believe. He came and he saw the Jewish people. Here they all are. He said, well, this is amazing. God saved the Jews from Egypt. He couldn't believe that anyone could have actually been saved. So he wanted to see the Jewish people were still alive. And that's what it says. Vayichad Yisrael, that Yisro was happy because of all the goodness that God did to the Jewish people, that he saved them from Egypt. Let's just do this one more. Vayismach Yitro. Yisro was happy. That's the simple meaning. And the Midrash is, Vayichad says his flesh made chidudim. It grew like goosebumps. Why? Miatzer, because he was pained by the destruction of so many Egyptians. Hainu the Omre Inchi, that's what people say, Giora ad Asredora lo tavaze armai ba'peh, says that a convert, even to the 10th generation of converts, don't say negative things about his original 10 generations. Don't say original bad things about the original nation where he came from, right? A person that used to be he lived in Russia, and he was a non-Jew, and he was a convert, and then his children, he had children, 10 generations. It says, don't say in front of those children something bad about Russia, because they know that in the end they came Russia. Same thing, that he was Vayichad means that Chad means like sharp, that it made like goosebumps all over him when he heard about the destruction, how God destroyed Egypt. When he heard about all the good, what was the good that God did? So on the bad things, it said he was very sort of shocked. But on the good things, he was very happy. What was he happy about? The manna that fell from the water that God gave, and that God gave them the Torah. So here, Rashi seems to be indicating that he came after the Torah also. So necessary that Ba'al Korchan, Asher Hitzilu Miyad Mitzrayim, and also the fact that he did, after all, save the Jews from Egypt. Ad Achshav Lo Haya Eved Yochal Livrach Mitzrayim. There was not even one slave that ever escaped from Egypt. And now, Shayat Haaretz Mesugeret, the land of Egypt was totally closed. The Elo, and this 600,000 men from the age of 20 and up, not counting all the children, not counting all the women, like some 3 million people all got out of Egypt, a place where one slave couldn't get out. So it says that he was tremendously happy because of this. As we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow. See you tomorrow morning, God willing, 8:15.